I'm going to show you how to code the South Carolina Seal of Biliteracy for 11th and 12th grade student recipients in PowerSchool. Okay, so here we are in PowerSchool. I've logged in as a PowerSchool administrator. This can be done, by the way, at the district office level, or it can be done at the school level. The person doing the data entry simply needs to have access to the South Carolina student information page for the student recipient. So just FYI in terms of the access that you'll need. So district office or school level is fine. So let me pull an 11th grade student as an example. So let's pick this student right here. So I click on the student, and in my navigation on the side of the page, I'm going to go to the student's state province-SC link. Okay, from the South Carolina state information page that appears, I will then click on the South Carolina student information page link. All right, here we are on the students page. There's a lot of information on this page, but what you need to know for the South Carolina Seal of Biliteracy is that you are going to scroll down. The first thing that you will need to check on is something that's in the 9th grade code section. You may be wondering, well, if 9th graders, if this doesn't have anything to do with 9th grade, why is postgraduate student email in that section? It's there because actually we encourage districts to go ahead and populate this as soon as students enter high school. So even their 9th grade year, just so you already have that populated for them, and you can change it if they prefer to change it to a different email address. But that way, if they do earn digital credentials and awards, it's there for them, and you don't have to worry so much later about gathering that information. But you do want to check on it. So the postgraduate student email must be populated. So I'll just put a fake email address. And very good. You want to make sure there are no spaces or anything like that. We do have a validation there if you use level data validations to make sure that you, if you accidentally have a leading or a trailing space or something like that, it'll hopefully catch that for you. So make sure you use your level data validations if you have them. One thing to note is that you will need to go ahead and save the postgraduate student email address before doing anything else. So let's scroll down to the bottom of the page and hit submit. All right. Now you're going to then scroll down. One note about the South Carolina Seal of Biliteracy, while it would certainly be very likely that your recipients, many of them might already be earning a diploma that year, remember that 11th graders can earn this. So your students might not necessarily have already earned their diploma yet. So don't worry about that. That's something that's different about this award than the Diploma Pathway Seals of Distinction, right? The Seals of Distinction can't be awarded until the student gets their diploma, until they've met the requirements for earning that. But the Seal of Biliteracy, again, they can get it their 11th or 12th grade year. So that's not something you have to check on. The requirements are just different. So if you go to the South Carolina Seal of Biliteracy section, technically it's housed in this big earned section, but it's sort of further down here. We had some old data entry space for this when the seal first came out that were used. They're grayed out here, they're deprecated, so those will eventually be removed. So don't try to click on these here for award earned, okay? Just ignore them. That's just showing that they used to be there. So you're gonna scroll down to here, and on my screen, I'm gonna have to a little bit to the right. And I'm going to click on New here in the South Carolina Seal of Biliteracy section. All of these things are required here on the page to enter the award for the student. So I pick the correct year. It should default to the current year. You'll see some previous years grayed out. You'll see some future years that are options for later, but this year would be 23-24. The language other than English for which they tested. So if it was Bulgarian, we would select that. And then the proficiency test. So is it one of these or is it other? The proficiency score, we realize that this isn't the exact score, but which one of these is represented by the score that the student has. So for example, if the student got advanced, low, or higher, and then the English qualification, whatever they used, whether they used the Access or the GPA qualification, and then the tier that they earned. And the proficiency score that you have here should help determine that, right? At this time, there's not a validation right here within this box, so that's for you to ensure that you're selecting the correct tier earned. So in this case, if they fulfilled the GPA requirements and they had this as the score that's represented here, then for the tier earned, I would select gold. And you can reach out to your world languages coordinator, either at the district or at the South Carolina Department of Education if you have more questions about the nitty-gritty of the requirements for the South Carolina Seal of Biliteracy. So this is just an example of how to enter that data. Then you're going to hit submit. And now my changes have been saved here. My changes have been saved here. I can see the year, and that is important, again, especially for this award, because unlike your seals of distinction, it's not just going to be one year that could be represented for a student. You could have multiple awards for both the junior and the senior year, okay? You've got your language other than English proficiency, test proficiency score, the English qualification that was used, and then the tier earned. Now, let's say the student also qualified for another award here. We could enter that. So we could go ahead and hit new again. Of course, we're going to use the year in which they earned it. Okay, the language other than English. So let's say it was Arabic, and let's say they did Apple, and let's say for this one, maybe they got a bronze award, just as an example, and we're going to submit this data. All right, now, even though these are probably fine, it says the changes have been saved, I always just go ahead and save my PowerSchool page. I just submit the whole page to make sure everything sticks. And that's all you need to know.